Hello, YouTube. I'm Natanis Likens, and apparently I have caused a stir up online. And this time it is with some fans of the Zelda franchise. So I want to go on record as saying a few things because what I remember of Zelda and what has been stated to be official does not match up, and it doesn't even make any sense. What they have said is official. So let's go over it. And bear in mind that the last time I played a Zelda game or I looked at any of the lore was nearly 18 years ago. So let's start off with what I remember of the lore. And if you don't know, this is going to get kind of interesting really quickly. I don't know how detailed I can get into it because I don't remember exactly where every single game falls. But the timeline of the Zelda franchise is all over the place. It is a mess, and the official stuff has made it even more of a mess. So, let's go over what I remember. Ocarina of Time is where the timeline gets split into three versions for whatever reason. I don't really understand how that's possible, but Ocarina of Time is where the timeline gets split into three. So the first one we got is the child timeline. This is where Link at the end of the game goes back to the past as a child to live out his life, and Zelda is just kind of like, we got to reset all this and keep Ganon from doing anything. And that's kind of where the game ends. That is the canonical ending, is Link getting sent back in time to being a child. The other two possible outcomes is him staying an adult. So we have the timeline where Link is the hero of time. I don't remember what the official name for that was, but it was something like Hero of Time. We get this in several other games. It flat out states that he was the hero of time. Okay, and that's one of the first changes I want to point out that is completely wrong with the official thing, is the hero of time no longer exists. I don't know why. That doesn't make any sense. The other timeline is the fallen hero timeline. This is where Link fails to stop Ganon, and Ganon ends up possessing either more power or the full Triforce. And I say that because not in every single one of these did he actually get a hold of the full Triforce because of how the Triforce works. It's simply, he cannot simply possess it. It's impossible because of how the Triforce works. Okay, so this split the entire timeline into three possible outcomes, and several of the games were stated to be in one of these different timelines. And here's some of the rules for what dictates what timeline it was back when this was done by fans and not the official stuff. So first and foremost, the child timeline is obvious. The obvious thing that makes it the child timeline is any kind of weapon or tool that is considered to be childish. Now, a lot of people online have been arguing with me on what that means. And I want to reiterate that this is not a given item. This is items in general. Any type of item that you would consider to be childish, like a squeaky hammer or something. And in most of those games, two of the best represented items are the boomerang and the slingshot. The boomerang and the slingshot, those are usually associated with the child timeline. And those aren't the only items. There are others. I do not have all the items memorized. But anytime you see something like that you would consider a childish toy or tool, it's supposed to be in the child timeline. Now, that's one of the first things that I noticed has been retconned, because there are several games that have that they say are not in that timeline, okay? So, the Fallen Hero timeline. The Fallen Hero timeline, because it is an adult timeline, usually only has adult-oriented weapons. Usually in these, you only see weapons such as the bow and the hook shot, or something similar to those. They are very adult-like instruments that you usually see. The other thing that you usually see is Ganon having his demonic form. And the reason for that is because he won. He defeated Link. He got whatever power, or the Triforce, however you want to put that, and has become a demon. And this is pretty consistent across the board. This used to be the thing that dictated if we are in the Fallen timeline. Now, as for the Hero of Time timeline, this one got a little bit iffy, and one of the conundrums about it was that the main thing that was present in most of these games wasn't always in a game that was considered to be in the Hero of Time, and that is the yellow stripe across his cap. And used to, they called it a gold stripe because this signified gold, as in winning, as in he defeated Ganon. That's what it used to be. And you got to remember, this is over 20 years ago. When I was looking it up just a few days ago, when this conundrum online and this argument started, I found out that they have retconned that, and now every single instance of the yellow or gold band is now part of the Fallen timeline, except for one, and that is now in a brand new timeline that is just like, wait, where did this come from? So, what does that mean? And this all started because I tried to correct people on which timeline Twilight Princess occurs in. Officially, Twilight Princess is stated to be in the child timeline. I admit that. It says that officially it is in the child timeline. But if you look at the evidence, that makes zero sense. We don't have any childish weapons, and we have Ganon in his demonic state. End of story. I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't believe their official stuff is correct. After all, this is exactly why we have things like Red Shirt Guy in World of Warcraft. It's because the official people that make this forget facts and don't put it where, or don't do things as it should according to their own lore. This is something that has been bugging me the last few days, and a lot of people are arguing with me over it, and I did look it up, and yes, I see that that is what is stated, but that cannot be possible. We do not have any evidence that supports that. Now then, and a lot of people were saying that this is the events immediately following Majora's Mask. No, they're not. This is like well after, and in fact, that version of Link is the one that died in the King's Guard, in the military of the Kingdom of Hyrule at the time. He died as a soldier in there. That is the ghostly apparition that we see throughout the Twilight games. So this can't have been Link going back to a kid. He stayed an adult and fought against Ganon after Ganon won. It has to be the Fallen timeline. End of story. I don't agree with what it says in the official thing. That doesn't make any sense for it to be in the child timeline. Now then, with that said, along with the few games that I've actually played, and bear in mind I've played very few games within the Zelda franchise. I have played Ocarina of Time, I have played a little bit of Majora's Mask, I've played Twilight Princess, and a little bit of Wind Waker. Wind Waker, in the old fan version, was in the child timeline. Now, while I was looking all this official stuff up, I noticed that Wind Waker is not in the child timeline anymore, which makes zero sense. Again, it has all the classic earmarks. Ganon is not in his demonic form in that game. He has no demonic form. And then we have various tools and such that are, I would consider, childish. It's not a very adult, battle-hardened game. This is a child with childish tools. So I do not agree with where they have placed this. Now, let's talk about where stuff is in the official timeline. And again, I don't have every single game memorized, only the ones that I'm familiar with. I do know, after looking this up, that all of the ones with the gold brim on the cap are now part of the Fallen timeline. Again, that makes zero sense to me because the gold used to represent that he won. I don't know why that's changed. But every single one of those. And from memory, that's like Link's Awakening, The Adventures of Link, or The Adventures of Zelda. I don't remember the exact name of that. And like one of the others. And then yet another one. I think Oracle and Seasons and Ages. I think that one is also considered in the Fallen timeline. Now, Twilight Princess is listed as being the child. Makes zero sense. But the Hero of Time is gone. There is no Hero of Time timeline according to the official stuff. When I was looking at it, it has changed, and they call it the Missing Hero. I don't know why. That makes zero sense to me. I don't understand what the Missing Hero timeline is. I didn't look into it because I was just looking for information on where things are in the timelines now. Which brings me back to Wind Waker. Wind Waker is stated to be in the Missing Hero timeline. No, that should actually be in the Child timeline. Why is that there? Majora's Mask is listed as being in the Child timeline. Ocarina of Time is the one that starts all of the timeline shenanigans, so it doesn't count. And Twilight Princess, as I already said, is stated to be in the Child timeline, and I don't really know why. That doesn't make a lick of sense to me, for all the reasons that I've already stated. And this used to be completely and utterly true. Like 18 years ago, this is how these timelines were seen to be. So I'm completely confused as to what they've done. I've looked up very little information since all this started exploding. But I need y'all to calm down because this is what I remember happening. I did not know that they went through and retconned everything and said that this is officially what happened. And as what little bit I've looked up so far, the official stuff doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. It's not based on any established rules. They're just saying, hey, these are here, here, and here. Which completely muddles up everything that I used to know about the Zelda timeline. So, please back off. All right? I'm not going to say that you guys are wrong, because obviously I am wrong. But what I am going to say is that the official stuff doesn't seem correct to me. And all the dogs are barking, so great. You get to hear that. Yeah. I totally disagree with all that stuff. Twilight Princess should be in the Fallen timeline, and all the others should be back to where they belong. And I don't even know what this Missing Hero stuff is all about. So I've got to look into that a little bit more. So yeah. That's all I got to say about that. And really just back off. I don't want to hear it anymore. Like, I get it. I was wrong according to everybody. Shut up.